They fined me $750 for non-compliant gate paint, even though I had the color code approved in writing 3 months earlier. The notice came with a 14-day payment demand and a threat to lien my home, so I chained the gate they claimed to own and waited for their reaction. Welcome to HOA Society. I'm Daniel Ross, a civil engineer out of Fort Worth, Texas, and yes, this story is about how I went from near foreclosure to rewriting our entire neighborhood charter. If you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss the next fight for fairness, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. It started after my dad passed last winter. He'd left me this small brick home on Meadowlark Court, a quiet cul-de-sac with more barking dogs than traffic. He was the kind who paid dues early and trimmed his hedge like a marine inspection. The HOA loved him. Me? Not so much. I'd been back less than 2 months when the first letter arrived. Improper mailbox height. Then, fence too rustic. Then, gate discoloration, which was rich since I just repainted it after a hailstorm. I was still learning to live without the old man's Saturday advice when a woman in a beige blazer marched up my drive, clipboard in hand. "You're Daniel Ross?" she asked, pen poised like a dagger. "That gate color violates subsection 4C. You'll need to repaint within 10 days or face assessment." "It's the approved color," I said. "I've got the email." "Emails aren't binding," she snapped, turning on her heel. Her name was Linda Cranford, HOA President, retired realtor, and self-appointed guardian of property values. She walked like she owned the asphalt. By the third notice, I realized this wasn't about paint. It was about power. They wanted me pliant, another silent check writer. My wound from Dad's death mixed with anger. He'd always told me, never let someone bully you with your own money. So I dug. First stop was the county recorder's office. I pulled every plat map and covenant on Meadowlark Court. 8 hours later, buried under 30-year-old blueprints, I found something odd. The HOA's common access lot behind my property had never been deeded correctly after a developer merger in 1998. Technically, it sat in a gray zone. No valid transfer, no updated parcel ID. My engineer's brain lit up. Knowledge nugget number 1. In Texas, if an HOA fails to record a transfer with the county clerk and collect the deed stamp, that parcel can revert to prior ownership after statutory lapse, sometimes 20 years. The prior owner? A dissolved LLC that owed $300 in back taxes. My next move was quiet. I paid the delinquent tax bill online, printed the receipt, and filed a notice of interest. I didn't own the lot yet, but I had a foot in the door. That night, I sat on my porch with my neighbor, Paul Henson, a retired firefighter with a laugh like gravel. "They hit you too?" he asked, sipping coffee from a dented thermos. "They fined me for my flagpole," he said it's 2 feet too tall. I told them to measure my patience. It's shorter. We laughed, but beneath it was fear. Paul's on a fixed income. One lien could wreck his credit. We decided to form a paper trail alliance. Every notice scanned, every meeting recorded. Texas is a one-party consent state, by the way. The next HOA meeting was in the clubhouse, a converted model home with the smell of stale coffee and laminate floors. Linda presided at a folding table, flanked by 3 board members, who nodded like dashboard bobbleheads. When my turn came, I asked, "Under which statutory authority are you imposing fines without a majority vote?" She blinked. "We have discretionary enforcement rights." "Not without a recorded resolution after January 2021, I said, holding up a printout of Texas Property Code FAR 2090062. Her smile thinned. "Sir, if you continue to disrupt—" "Just asking questions," I said, recording light blinking red on my phone. That night I noticed headlights idling near my mailbox at 11 p.m. Coincidence or not, I installed a motion camera. Next morning, a violation photo appeared in my inbox, time-stamped 10:57 p.m., showing my trash bins visible from street. I forwarded it to myself with a note. Harassment log number 4. The quiet revenge had begun. 2 weeks later, I got a certified letter that smelled faintly of toner and perfume. HOA stationery, heavy stock, embossed seal. Final notice before legal action. They were threatening to pursue collection through their attorney, a man named Kent Mallory. The irony? I'd worked with Mallory's firm years back during a flood control easement project. I knew their formatting, their language, their weaknesses. I brewed a pot of coffee, set out a legal pad, and began building what I called my reverse file. Every HOA claim, every time-stamped photo, every audio recording had its place. Each citation got a number, 001 through 014, and a cross-reference to the corresponding covenant clause. My civil engineering background gave me one advantage. I knew how to read technical nonsense and turn it into usable leverage. Then came the door knock. Linda herself. She stood there, eyes bright with a smile sharp enough to cut tin. "Daniel, this has gone far enough. The board's prepared to escalate unless you comply." "With what exactly?" I asked. "With community standards," she said, glancing past me like she was inspecting my entryway. "You're not a good fit for Meadowlark if you can't follow basic rules." That line stuck. Not a good fit. I thought of my dad's folded flag above the mantel. He built half this neighborhood's fences. He'd have reminded her the HOA was a service organization, not a monarchy. "Linda," I said, "I'll comply with the law, not your moods." Her eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." She left tire marks on the curb. By the next morning, my mailbox had 3 new envelopes, citations for noise, non-compliant lighting, and unauthorized camera. That last one was rich. They'd tried to fine me for filming my own porch. I filed complaint number 15 under retaliation behavior. Midweek, I met with an ally, Carla Nguyen, a real estate attorney whose cuffs were always ink-stained from fountain pens. She'd handled HOA overreach before and liked to say, "If they weaponize bylaws, we'll weaponize statutes." Over sandwiches at a deli, I showed her my maps and the tax receipt for the back lot. She leaned in. "If the deed lapsed and you cured the taxes, that parcel's in limbo. You could petition for quiet title." "How long?" I asked. "Maybe 6 months, maybe less. Depends if anyone contests it." "Would the HOA contest?" "They'd have to prove they still hold title," she said. "From what I'm seeing, they don't." Knowledge nugget number 2, under Texas Civil Practice Remedies, Code 416.025, adverse possession with tax payment for over 1 year on an unclaimed parcel grants superior claim if no recorded owner responds to notice. That was my first taste of leverage, but I stayed quiet. The HOA kept circling, confident I was cornered. Midway through March, they staged their big move, a public non-compliance hearing. They taped the notice to my door with bright red ink like a scarlet letter. Paul called it the Scarlet Stencil. The notice invited all residents to observe due process, which was HOA speak for humiliation. I attended with Carla, recorder running. Linda sat at the front table beside Treasurer Gibbons, whose tie had a coffee stain shaped like Texas. "Mr. Ross," Linda began, voice syrupy, "you've repeatedly failed to comply with directives under Section 3, gate maintenance, Section 4, noise, and Section 5, unauthorized installations. The board is moving to impose an additional $500 in penalties." Carla speaks. "Okay, calmly. Madam President, under Part 209.006, you're required to provide 30 days notice before such action and evidence of a vote in open session." Linda stiffened. "We're not here to debate statutes." "Then you're not here lawfully," Carla said, flipping a folder shut with a sound like a gavel strike. That line made 2 neighbors clap before Linda's glare silenced them. Early in April, things got uglier. A wellness check by police at 2 a.m., triggered by an anonymous caller claiming I was yelling threats. The officer apologized at the door. "Sir, this happens more than you'd think. Someone's abusing dispatch." I logged it. Incident number 21. That same week, I noticed Linda's silver SUV parked near the community gate, engine idling. I walked up slowly, camera on. She rolled the window down halfway. "You filming me?" she said. "Documenting," I replied. "Transparency protects us both." She smirked. "Keep filming, engineer. You'll have a lot of footage when you lose your home." Her confidence told me one thing. She thought she owned the terrain. But I'd just secured my first legal foothold. By May, the tax office had mailed me confirmation. Payment accepted. Parcel redemption complete. I now had priority claim on the back lot, the same common area the HOA used as justification for controlling my gate access. Quiet title pending, but effective possession mine. I didn't announce it. Not yet. A smart man doesn't play his card before the bet's called. If you've ever faced an HOA like this, tell me. Are you firmly anti-HOA, or have you seen one run fairly? Drop your story below. Some of you might just help another homeowner stand up. And if any bored lurkers are watching, leave your message here too. By early summer, they doubled the fines, plastered my name on a delinquent homeowner's notice, and circulated whispers about foreclosure. But the harder they pushed, the steadier I became. Documentation was oxygen. Every notice they mailed became another brick in their own wall. And then, one humid Tuesday more. In June, I made the quietest move of all. I filed my petition for quiet title in county court, case number 23-1149Q. If the judge approved, the HOA's private drive would belong to me. That was the first countdown. The countdown to July 12th started like the ticking of a hidden metronome. Slow, steady, legal. Carla said it might take 60 days for the petition to appear on the docket. 60 days to let the HOA talk themselves into a corner. I didn't need to rush. I just needed them loud. And loud they were. On June 16th, a post appeared on the community forum titled Protecting Our Values, written by Admin LC. Linda, obviously. It accused unnamed homeowners of creating division and exploiting technicalities to undermine collective harmony. My house number was blurred in the attached photo, but everyone knew the gate. Comments rolled in, some supportive, others vicious. I took screenshots of all 47 before the admin deleted them. Knowledge nugget number 3, under Federal 47 USC 8230, platform operators, like HOA-run digital boards, can remove posts, but content used for selective enforcement or defamation within a membership body may still constitute civil liability under state tort law. Paul swung by that evening, holding 2 beers and a grin. "You're famous, brother. They're calling you Gate Man." "Could be worse," I said. "Could be Lean Man." He laughed, then frowned. "You sure you're safe? Saw Linda snapping pictures of your truck again. She's building a case. Let her." Behind every fine and photo, I heard the same rhythm. Control. That's when I started using their own paperwork against them. Every inspection notice listed parcel coordinates. Every coordinate referred back to the same access easement, Lot C, my pending claim. I highlighted those references in yellow, stapled them into a binder labeled Exhibit A, Overreach on Unowned Land. 4th of July came hot and sticky. The HOA banned fireworks, citing fire risk. Still, kids ran with sparklers, and adults whispered about me over barbecue smoke. A neighbor named Grace, mid-40s, mother of 2, approached with her daughter clutching a popsicle. "Mr. Ross," she said, "I don't agree with the HOA, but people are scared. They say your fight could bankrupt us." "It's not about breaking the HOA," I said. "It's about making them obey their own rules. That helps everyone." Her little girl smiled. "My grandpa says bullies always yell before they fall." Smart kid. Mid-July, the board sent a mass email. Emergency dues adjustment, $175 increase to cover legal contingencies. No vote, no notice, just demand. That was a tactical mistake. Carla sent them a certified cease and desist for unlawful assessment, citing POW 2209-2051. They ignored it, of course. Then came a new angle, property insurance. I got a call from my insurer asking about ongoing disputes affecting risk rating. Someone from the board had filed a complaint suggesting negligent maintenance on my property. I faxed them photos, receipts, and the inspection report from my last renewal. Case closed, complaint withdrawn. But I noted the timing, exactly 2 weeks after my court filing. Retaliation disguised as bureaucracy. The neighborhood was fracturing. Some quietly supported me, others feared fines. The HOA moved meetings to executive session to exclude dissenters. But through a public records request, Texas Open Meetings Act, Par 551, I obtained the minutes they forgot to redact. There it was in black and white. Discussed legal exposure if Lot C confirmed outside HOA jurisdiction. They knew. That night, sitting under the porch light, I could almost hear my dad's voice through the cicadas. Document first, speak last. I printed the minutes and slipped them into a fireproof box. Debate time. Friends, how far should an HOA control your private property, your porch, your fence, your gate? Where's the line between community order and personal freedom? Drop your answer below, or at least like the video so it reaches more homeowners fighting back. By August, the air felt heavier. Linda filed for a protective variance claiming historical entitlement to the access lot. She didn't realize the county clerk's online system auto-notifies adjacent claimants, me included. Her filing triggered an alert on my dashboard. I smiled at the timestamp, 3:17 p.m. That's when I knew she was panicking. I called Carla. "We keep quiet?" "Quieter," she said. Let her walk into her own exhibit. Still, there were days I woke up tense, half expecting a process server at my door. That's the fear part they never tell you about. How even when you're right, the machine grinds loud enough to make you doubt your sanity. Paul sensed it one night when we sat by his garage, the smell of motor oil and rain mixing. "You're doing this for your dad, aren't you?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, "but also for everyone who can't afford a lawyer." "Then you'd better win big." I plan to. September 3rd, 10:42 a.m. County clerk confirmed hearing date set for October 14th. 60 days. That's when I started a new file labeled Countdown. Each day, I logged one new infraction they threw at me. By day 28, there were 9. Mailbox, lighting, shrub height, unapproved bench, and excessive recording. My binder was 3 inches thick. Every fine they issued sat atop land they didn't own. They just didn't know that yet. October crept in with that brittle kind of Texas heat that makes even the shadows feel dry. The HOA, sensing the court date, amped their game. Linda started holding compliance walks twice a week, clipboard in hand, 2 board members trailing like bailiffs. I caught them photographing. Gee, my driveway cracks, even my porch mat. One morning I stepped outside with my coffee just as they finished their inspection. "You missed a spot," I said, pointing at the gutter. Linda glared but said nothing. I snapped a photo of her taking a photo. That same day, I installed a new latch on the gate, galvanized steel, padlock rated 810 on tamper tests. Purely symbolic, but it felt like armor. The gate creaked shut with a click that sounded final, almost prophetic. Inside, my walls were lined with binders, Evidence AD, each labeled, tabbed, timestamped. Carla dropped by with an update. The judge assigned is Patricia Gomez. Fair by the book. You'll want visuals, maps, photos, sequence logs. Already done, I said, sliding a color-coded chart across the table. Each violation mapped to the disputed parcel. Carla smiled. You're more organized than most attorneys. Occupational hazard, I said. Knowledge nugget number 4. In HOA disputes, factual sequence often outweighs emotion. Dated evidence showing board action beyond jurisdiction can establish bad faith and void subsequent penalties under most state statutes. The HOA didn't see the trap closing. They held a special budget meeting on October 10th, 4 days before my hearing. I attended, sitting in the back while they discussed anticipated litigation exposure. Linda announced, "We've retained counsel to defend our property interests against a frivolous claim." She didn't know I was recording. When I raised my hand, the room froze. "Question," I said. "Can you confirm the HOA has verified title ownership of Lot C with the county?" Her face reddened. "We're not taking questions at this time." "That's fine," I said, pocketing my phone. "It'll come up in court." I walked out to the sound of whispers and the faint slap of her gavel on the table. You tell me, should HOAs be able to fine residents for violations on land they might not legally own, or do we draw the line between governance and overreach? I'm curious what you'd argue if you sat in that meeting. October 14th. The courthouse smelled like cold marble and dust. Carla wore her lucky navy blazer. I carried the brown file box Dad had used for his old repair receipts. It felt fitting somehow, like he was still helping fix something. The hearing was brief, 38 minutes total. Linda's lawyer, Mallory, tried to argue de facto control through long-term use. Carla countered with chain of title documents, county stamps, and my tax payment receipts. When Judge Gomez asked if the HOA had recorded any ownership filings since 1998, Mallory hesitated. believed the developer's deed transfer. Belief, the judge interrupted, is not a legal instrument. By noon, she'd issued an interim order recognizing my claim as prima facie valid, pending final quiet title. For now, control of Lot C rested with me. Linda's face when she heard the words, white as printer paper. That night, I went home and stood at my gate, hand on the cool metal. The same one she said was non-compliant. The one they fined me for. I wrapped a chain around it, not out of defiance but symbolism, and clicked the padlock shut. The moonlight flashed off the private property sign I'd bolted up an hour earlier. The next morning, Linda arrived in full theater. 2 cops behind her, lights flashing, clipboard ready. She pointed at the gate. "This is obstruction. You can't chain off community access." I stepped forward, calm. "You mean my access lot?" She scoffed. "This is HOA property." I handed her the stamped court order. "Not anymore." One of the officers read it, looked at her, then at me. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "this looks legitimate." "You can't be serious," she hissed. He shrugged. "Says here the court recognizes his claim. We're just here to keep the peace." I sat down on my porch chair, just like Dad used to, and nodded toward the open street. Peace sounds good. The sound of that gate chain rattling in the warm air was the quietest victory I'd ever heard. But victories like that never stay quiet long. By the next morning, every porch light on Meadowlark Court flickered with rumor. The HOA thread exploded. 52 comments in 2 hours. He blocked access. Illegal chain. We'll sue him personally. I didn't reply. Silence lets people write their own panic. Linda, though, didn't sleep. 2 citations slid under my door before sunrise. Vandalism and unauthorized signage. They were printed at 3:12 a.m. I imagined her hunched over a desk, toner smudged, righteousness shaking her hand. That week was pure retaliation theater. A code inspector appeared unannounced to verify drainage compliance. A second officer knocked claiming a noise complaint from my empty backyard. Then an HOA email accused me of threatening behavior. Their escalation wasn't strategy, it was fear. Paul dropped by again, grease on his hands from fixing his mower. "You sure they won't come after your job next?" "Already tried," I said. HR called about an anonymous tip questioning my professional ethics. I sent them the hearing transcript. That shut it down. He whistled low. "You're living in a movie." "Feels more like an audit," I said. Those were the long nights, the kind where even the hum of the fridge feels accusatory. I'd wake up sweating, thinking of my dad's old words. Stand for what's right, but keep your receipts. I had receipts stacked like bricks now, but the weight didn't ease the fear of losing the house he'd left me. By late October, I'd stopped flinching at envelopes. The HOA mailed them daily, each one weaker. The ink bled, the tone turned shrill. I labeled this phase desperation. Carla called it good evidence. "Document their unraveling," she said over the phone. "Courts-like pattern." So I did. I even charted their violation timestamps on a spreadsheet. Peak hours between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Harassment by insomnia. That's when I realized something important. If I wanted lasting change, not just revenge, I needed allies beyond my fence. I started knocking on doors. Grace signed first, then Paul, then a teacher named Yolanda, whose fine stack rivaled mine. We formed what we jokingly called the Covenant Recovery Group. Our meetings were quiet, kitchen table affairs with laptops and coffee. I built a shared drive labeled HOA Transparency Initiative, uploading every legal document, map, and notice. The pattern was unmistakable. Linda had approved $18,400 in landscaping contracts to her cousin's company. No bids, no disclosure. "Conflict of interest," Carla said when I showed her the files. "If we link it to assessments, it's actionable." I planned to hold that card for the next showdown. But for now, it was just another seed in the soil. Tell me this. What's your limit? When fines hit $250, $500, $1,000, when does justice turn into a revenue scheme? I want to hear it, because somewhere in those answers is the reason these HOAs get away with it. Early November brought the cold and the breaking point. The HOA issued a special assessment letter for security upgrades, amounting to $400 per household. No vote, No hearing. The kicker: they used the same disputed parcel in the budget line item. I called Carla. "This is it," I said. "Then it's time," she replied. We drafted a complaint to the county's Common Interest Community Ombudsman. Texas added that office only 2 years ago, but it had real teeth: oversight, investigation, public reporting. Linda didn't know it yet, but that complaint, filed November 7th, 4:46 p.m., was the quiet hinge of everything to come. The next few days were retaliation in surround sound. Anonymous calls, HOA board emails, leaked screenshots from my old Facebook. Someone even left a fake notice of eviction on my gate. I kept my cool, logged each incident, filed them with timestamps. That Friday, my motion camera caught Linda herself stepping onto the parcel after dark, shining a flashlight through the fence. I didn't confront her. I just hit save. Carla saw the footage Monday. "This is criminal trespass," she said. "You've been patient long enough." I still wasn't ready to spring the trap. The best revenge in law is one that looks like routine procedure. So I waited while the Ombuds office acknowledged receipt and opened an investigation. Case number TXCIC1224. In less than a month, they'd summon the HOA to a public compliance review. That would be the stage. The compliance review landed right before Christmas, December 19th. The email subject line alone felt like a verdict. Notice of public oversight session. Meadowlark HOA complaint TXCIC12224. Attendance mandatory. That was my green light. For the next few nights, I barely slept. Every folder, every photo, every timestamp got triple-checked. I reprinted exhibits on 24-pound paper so the ink wouldn't bleed under fluorescent lighting. Carla came by with her thermos of burnt coffee and her unflappable calm. "Remember," she said, "facts are artillery. Fire only when they rush the line." Meanwhile, Linda tried one last scare. On December 15th, she sent a certified letter claiming I owed $3,225 in unpaid fines and administrative fees. I took a red pen and wrote across the top, "Void. Jurisdiction disputed." Scanned it, time-stamped 9:14 p.m., and sent a copy to the Ombuds office. The next day, I found my name struck from the HOA's website directory, erased like a ghost. Paul dropped by with a string of lights tangled around his arm. "You hanging these or hanging up the gloves?" "Both," I said. "Christmas deserves closure." He laughed that wheezy laugh of his and helped me string them along the fence. Each bulb reflected off the chain like tiny verdicts waiting to be read. Then, on the morning of the 19th, the sky turned pewter and cold rain slicked the asphalt. I wore Dad's old watch, the one he'd polished before every city inspection meeting. The clubhouse looked smaller that day, like the weight of paperwork had pressed it down. About 30 residents showed up, some curious, some hostile. Linda sat at her usual place, hair perfect, blazer sharper than her tone. The Ombuds investigator, a tall woman named Inspector Ramos, stood beside the projector, neutral expression, but eyes that missed nothing. "Let's begin," Ramos said, clicking to the first slide. Complaint TXCIC12224 alleges procedural violations and property misclassification. "Mr. Ross, you're the complainant. You may proceed." I rose, my binder thudding open. The first photo appeared. Linda's SUV on the disputed parcel, timestamp glowing in the corner. Gasps rippled through the room. "This," I said, voice steady, "is the same land cited in at least 11 violation notices against me. Yet according to County Record 98-341B, that parcel hasn't been HOA property since before most of us moved here." Linda tried to interrupt, but Ramos raised a hand. "You'll have your turn." Next slide. Map overlay, county seal visible. I pointed with a pen. "Right here is the chain of title. And here," I clicked again, "is proof I paid the back taxes, recorded November 7th last year. Under Section 16.025, that creates possessory interest. Every citation issued referencing this land constitutes bad faith enforcement." The room murmured. Even the treasurer shifted in his chair. Linda leaned forward, voice brittle. "This is misinformation. The HOA has maintained and improved that parcel for years, using funds allocated without recorded votes," I said, clicking again. Up came the ledger page showing the $18,400 landscaping contract to her cousin's firm. She froze. Ramos stepped closer. "Mrs. Cranford, did the board disclose familial relationship on this expenditure?" Linda's jaw clenched. "That's irrelevant to—" "It's relevant," Ramos said flatly. The silence after that felt like vacuum. Rain tapped the clubhouse windows. My heart thudded in perfect sync. Visual beat number 1 happened almost by instinct. I lifted the stamped deed and set it on the table with a soft thud. Paper met wood. The sound carried like a gavel strike. "For the record," I said, "this is my lawful claim to Lot C. I haven't obstructed community property. I've protected private land from unauthorized use." Ramos examined the document, nodded once, and handed it back. "The record will so reflect." Neutral authority had spoken. When I walked out into the drizzle, Paul clapped my shoulder. "That was clean, man. Surgical." "Not over yet," I said. "They'll spin it." He smirked. "Then give 'em more rope." "Tell me this. Should board meetings like this be recorded and made public for accountability? Or should HOAs keep them private to protect reputations?" "I know where I stand, but I want to hear yours." The next morning, news spread faster than gossip. The Ombuds's office released a summary finding: probable cause for procedural and financial violations. The HOA had 30 days to respond, 30 days that would decide everything. And in those 30 days, I planned my next move, the one Linda would never see coming. The Ombuds's report hit like a cold front. It didn't declare guilt, but the words probable cause were enough to chill every board member in their folding chairs. 2 resigned within a week, claiming personal reasons. Linda didn't. She doubled down. She called an emergency town hall for January 5th, open to all homeowners, live-streamed for transparency, as if she still commanded the stage. I cleared my schedule. By New Year's Eve, the neighborhood felt split. Half the lawns had "Transparency Now" flyers I'd quietly printed. The other half had signs reading, "Protect our HOA." Even the kids sensed it. Grace's daughter waved at me one morning and whispered, "Mom says you're like the lawyer in a movie." "Tell your mom I'm just an engineer with paperwork," I said. January 5th came crisp and clear, sky washed clean after rain. The clubhouse buzzed like a beehive. I sat near the back, laptop open, camera rolling, compliant, calm, waiting. Linda entered in full regalia, blazer pressed, pearls shining, eyes hard. The live stream red light glowed on the podium. She opened strong. "Certain residents," she said, glaring toward me, "have weaponized technicalities to disrupt our community harmony. We must restore order." Then she made her mistake, again. "Effective immediately, we're reinstating fines for all non-compliant structures and will pursue foreclosure for chronic offenders." Gasps. She'd just declared intent to collect on voided penalties in public view under investigation. Carla, seated beside me, whispered, "There it is." I stood, calm as concrete. "Madam President," I said, "before you continue, I'd like to introduce new information for the record." The mic squealed as I approached. My hands didn't shake. I placed a thick envelope on the podium, county seal, notarized signature visible. 2 days ago," I said, "the county recorder completed quiet title proceedings for parcel Lot C, recorded deed number 24017 QT. I paused. "This is the land on which your so-called community access gate sits." Gasps again. Linda's color drained. "You can't—" "Oh, I can," I said. And I did, lawfully, under Texas Civil Practice Code. Ramos, the Ombuds's inspector, appeared at the back of the room. She'd attended unannounced, arms folded. "Mrs. Cranford," she said loudly enough for the live stream mic to catch, "the state has confirmed the parcel is no longer under HOA jurisdiction. Continuing enforcement there would constitute bad faith action." It was surgical silence, the kind that hums in your ears. Then some. One clapped. Paul, of course. Then Grace. Then a dozen more. Within seconds, applause swelled so loud it drowned the fluorescent buzz overhead. Linda gripped the podium. "You're destroying this community." "No," I said quietly, leaning toward the mic. "I'm saving it. From you." Visual beat number 2 landed without planning. The sound of that chain outside, rattling faintly in the wind, audible through the open door. That gate, the one that started it all, stood locked, lawful, shining under morning sun. When I left the meeting, reporters were waiting. 2 local stations, 1 blogger from Fort Worth Civic Voice. Ramos gave a short statement. The Meadowlark HOA is under compliance review, following confirmed irregularities in property jurisdiction and financial management. Interim leadership will be appointed. That night, sitting on my porch, I watched the news clip play back. Linda walking off stage, face pale, camera flash, catching the sheen of sweat on her temple. Paul joined me, beer in hand. "That's one for the books," he said. "It's not over," I told him. "Not until we fix the system that let it happen." You tell me, though, what should the penalty be for HOA officials who trespass, harass, or misuse authority? Fines? Removal? Criminal charges? The line between civic duty and abuse of power is thinner than that chain on my gate. By the end of January, the dominoes had started their fall. The HOA's insurer suspended liability coverage pending governance review. The community bank froze their operating account after the ombuds referral. Linda received a formal notice of investigation. Carla called it poetic symmetry. They weaponized procedure. Now procedures weaponized back. And yet, I didn't feel triumphant. The house was quiet, too quiet. My dad's flag still hung over the mantel. I realized I'd spent a year fighting, not living. Maybe it was time to trade victory for reform. February would bring the proposal, the one that could end this fight for good. February sunlight had that washed-out winter hue, the kind that makes every driveway look a little pale, every window quieter. The HOA, or what was left of it, was now under a temporary administrator appointed by the Ombuds Office, retired Judge Samuel North, white hair, calm hands. When he called me in for a conversation, I half expected another ambush. Instead, he poured me coffee and said, "Mr. Ross, we have 2 choices, scorched earth or structure. I think you prefer structure." He wasn't wrong. So we drafted what became the Meadowlark Reform Charter, a document of 6 pages that would reshape everything. Term limits for board members, mandatory financial disclosures, independent audits, open voting, and a permanent ethics committee with resident representation. The last clause was mine. All enforcement actions must occur on verified HOA property only, with public record verification accessible to members upon request. I told Judge North I'd sign over full rights to Lot C once those reforms passed, but not before. That was my reversal number 2, the reform deal. He nodded slowly. "You're offering leverage for legacy. Smart move." The following week, we held a special election in the very clubhouse that once echoed with Linda's voice. This time, the folding chairs were filled with neighbors, not spectators, people who'd finally read their own covenants. Paul nominated Grace for treasurer. She won by near unanimous vote. When the reform charter passed, I handed Judge North a single manila envelope, the recorded deed to Lot C. He slid it back toward me. "Keep it for now, Daniel. Let them see that accountability can coexist with ownership." Outside, the air smelled like wet clay and coffee from the volunteer table. Cameras from Fort Worth Civic Voice captured the handshake. Visual beat number 3, the stamped charter landing on the podium beside a small American flag, its pages fanning in the breeze. The story spread fast, local news first, then HOA reform blogs across the country. Engineer uses law to reclaim property, forces HOA transparency mandate. Neighbors from other subdivisions started emailing me templates asking how to replicate the model. It felt less like revenge and more like repair. Carla called one evening, voice tired but proud. "You did it, Daniel. Not just one. You changed the rulebook." Paul and I celebrated quietly on the porch, watching kids ride bikes past the now unlocked gate. "Funny," he said, "how peace looks like a chain undone." "Yeah," I said, "and it sounds like quiet." If you believe I fought the right way and this is how it should end, say a few words in the comments for your friend who's still fighting theirs. Subscribe so future stories reach you first. And share this one. It might just teach someone that fairness isn't rebellion, it's maintenance. That's on us. 3 months later, Linda accepted a plea deal. Misuse of authority, probation, restitution of $18,400. The HOA's insurance reinstated under new leadership. Assessments reduced 20%. The Ombuds's office published a short commendation. Case exemplifies citizen accountability within statutory boundaries. Now, on quiet evenings, I walk past that once disputed parcel. The grass is trimmed, the sign gone, the fence newly painted. A little plaque stands near the gate now, bronze, modest, in memory of Edward Ross, who taught his son to keep receipts and keep faith. Sometimes I touch it before heading inside, the cool metal grounding me. Justice isn't loud, I've learned. It's procedural, it's patient, it's public. And when a new neighbor asks about the story behind the plaque, I just smile and say, let's just say our HOA learned how to mind its own lot. Then I close the gate behind me, and the latch clicks once. Clean, final, lawful.